In this video, we will be learning how to play Cribbage. This is a strategy game most well known for the board used for taking score, which traditionally looks something like this. This is usually a two-player game, and we'll be learning how to play this game for 2 players. Let's begin the tutorial. Let's first talk about the board. First, you'll take 2 pegs and choose which color you're going to be. These pegs will be used for counting score, with each dot representing 1 point. The goal of the game is to go all the way around the board and score 121 points before your opponent. While you don't need a board for counting the score, it is a very nice visual of how close you are to the end. But if you just want to write down your scores on a piece of paper or use something on your phone to track score, that's totally fine as well. For now, I'm going to move this board to the side and we're just going to talk about playing the game with the cards. First, take the deck without the jokers, shuffle, and deal 6 cards to each player. Leave the rest of the cards in the middle of the table next to the board face down. Then, each player will look at their hand and remove 2 cards from their hand. The best hand I can keep here is probably 7, 8, king, and 10. Then I'll take this 2 and 3, put it face down next to me right here. This is called the crib, and whoever dealt gets the crib each round. The crib is like an extra hand that is passed between the 2 players. Whoever deals gets the crib, and whoever did not deal gets to go first and count first, which does matter towards the end of the game. Then the other player will also put two cards into my crib. Then the 4 cards are moved to the side and play can begin. The player who did not deal cuts the deck and takes the top card from the bottom half of the cut and flips it face up. You can use this face up card in scoring later in the game. We'll go over this later. If a player cuts the deck and flips up a jack, the player who cut the deck gets 2 points. Then the non-dealer goes first, which in my case is my opponent. You can always remember who dealt by whoever has the crib. The player who dealt always gets the crib. To begin play, the non-dealer plays 1 card onto the table face up. They will then add the value of this card to the total on the pile and announce it out loud. Since this is the first card played and it's a 9, I would add 0 and 9 and say 9. Then it is the dealer's turn. The dealer would then play 1 card onto the table. Let's say an 8. But instead of saying 8, they would say 9 plus 8, which is 17. So I would take this 8, play it, and say 17. If a card is played onto the table and those 2 cards added together equals exactly 15, the player who played the card to create the 15 scores 2 points. In order to track points, you'll take the peg and move it forward. Let's say I scored a 15, I would then move the back peg up 2 spaces. Whenever you score points, you'll move the back peg up however many spaces you scored. Let's say I scored 3, I would then move my back peg up 3 spaces and then continue the same process. Say I scored however much, I would move it up that far. This is how we keep track of score using the cribbage board. This back and forth play continues until both players have no cards in their hand. And aside from 15s, there are a few other ways to score points in play. Let's say this player plays a 7. They would announce 9 plus 8, which is 17, plus 7 is 24 total. But notably, there is a run of 7, 8, and 9 on the board. This player would then score 3 points, 1 point for each card in the run. If this was a run of 4 or 5, they would score 4 and 5 points, and so on. 1 point for each card in the run. So then this player would move the back peg up 3 spaces, indicating 3 points they got for the run. Another way to score points is to put a pair onto the pile. Pairs 3 of a kind and 4 of a kind can only be formed if the previous card played is something that matches the card I played. So, since last round my opponent played a 7, if I play a 7 to match, I would announce 31 and get 2 points for the pair, moving my back peg up 2 spaces. Notably, this combination also adds up to 31. The total score on the board cannot exceed 31, but if you play a card to make the total score on the pile equal exactly 31, you get 2 points. Now let's say we had this alternative scenario. The total score on the pile is 26. You can only play cards that are 5 or less right now. And let's say neither one of us has a card that's worth 5 or less points. Since my opponent played this card, I would look at my hand, see that I can't play a card into the pile, and say go. My opponent, who also cannot play a card onto the pile without going over 31 points, would then take the go and add 1 point to their score. Then, the total on the pile resets back to 0, and the player who did not get the go goes first. So, since I said go, I would get to play a card onto the pile, resetting the score. Let's say I play an 8, I would say 8 aloud as the new score on the pile is 8, and play would continue from there. This continues until both players play all of their cards. The player who plays the last card gets 1 point, but if the last card adds to exactly 15 or 31, that player gets 2 points instead. I also want to make note that if you have a card that you can play onto the pile that will keep the score under 31, even if your opponent says go, you are required to play it. Let's say my opponent has played a 10, I played a king, and they played a 9. This would be 29 total points on the pile. I do not have a 2 or an ace in my hand, so I cannot play. I would look at my opponent and say go, but instead of them just taking the 1 point, they would play their ace to go to 30. But my opponent has no more cards in hand, so then since I already said go, they would just take 1 point for the go and play their ace. If you can play a card and it does not take the total score over 31, you are required to do so. Then, after both players have played all 4 cards from their hand, they are allowed to score their hands. The non-dealer goes first, so my opponent would get to score their points first. This player had a 9, 6, 2, and 7. They are also allowed to use the jack that was flipped up to help improve their hand if possible. There are a few ways to score from your hand. Combinations of 15 are worth 2 points each. Pairs are worth 2 points each, which means 3 of a kinds are worth 6 and 4 of a kind is worth 12. A run of 3 or more, no matter what the suit is worth 1 point for each card in the run. I also want to make note that ace is always low in a run, so you cannot form a run with queen, king, ace. Ace must go with 2 and 3. A flush, which is where every card in your hand is the same suit, is worth 4 points. And if the flipped up card is also in the same suit, you get 1 extra point, so 5 total. And one more weird rule called knobs. Let's say that instead of this 6, this player had a jack of spades in their hand, and the flipped up card was a 5. This jack has the same suit as the flipped up card, so you get 1 point for knobs. As long as one of the jacks in your hand has the same suit as the card you flipped up, you get 1 point. This hand isn't incredible, but it has some points in it. 9 and 6 is equal to 15, and 7 plus 6 plus 2 is also equal to 15. So whenever you're counting, you'd say 15-2, pointing at the 2 cards that add up to 15, and then 15-4, counting up the 3 cards that add to 15. Then you would count your pairs, which there are 0 in this hand. Then you would count a run, 1 point for each run. There are no runs in this hand, so 0 points for runs. Then you would count the points from the flush. Not all of the cards in this hand are the same suit, so there's 0 points for the flush. And if you have a jack in your hands, you can check for knobs. There is not a jack in this person's hand, so they got 0 points from knobs. In total, this hand is worth 4 points. The player would take their back peg and move it up 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it is the dealer's turn to count their score. This hand isn't very good. The only points that I see in this hand is a 7 and 8, which add up to 15. So I would say 15-2. And that would be all the points I got in my hand. This hand would be a lot better if there was a pair or the flipped up card was a 5. I'd be able to make more combinations of 15, but alas, the only points I have are 2 points from the 7 and 8. So I would take the back peg and move it up 2 spots. And last but not least is the most interesting part, the crib. Each player knows what 2 cards they put in the crib, but it is unknown how many points the crib will score until it is turned face up at the end of the round. You will always count the crib last. First, it's the non-dealer's hand, then it is the dealer's hand, then it is the crib. Let's flip up the crib and see how many points we have in here. Okay, not a terrible crib. This crib has multiple combinations of 15. 3 and 2 and 10 is 15. Jack 3 and 2 is also 15, so 15-2, 15-4. I should probably make note that all face cards are worth 10 points in case I didn't say that earlier. And lastly, this crib has a run of 3, 5, 6, 7. So the dealer would receive 7 points for having 7 points in their crib. I would then take my peg and move it up 7 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. After the crib is counted, the round is concluded. You'll take all the cards, shuffle them up, and the person who did not have the crib last time is now the dealer. That player will receive the crib and deal 6 cards to each player. This process is repeated until one player gets to 121 points. The first player to get to 121 points wins the game. Notably, if both players score enough in their hands to score 121, whoever counted first and actually got to 121 first would win the game. And that's how you play Cribbage. Thank you for watching this tutorial. This is one of my favorite card games of all time, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I have. If you liked the tutorial, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.